You know what? These image gatherers have it too good. Grabbing images for these lists from matches that are just too easy to find, what a life. Time to knock them down a peg with some matches that were never televised. Also, thank you so much for all that you do. The ship does not run without you all. Please don't leave me. I can't go back to grabbing images myself. No, Ollie, no, I can't go back! One of the most fun things to discuss among any gathering of wrestling fanatics is dream matches that we may or may not ever get to see. But some of the matches that I would most like to see have been seen before, but only by very select, very lucky groups of people. Sometimes the biggest and coolest matches are only shown to the people lucky enough to be in attendance at a house show, or at a show with a particularly special dark match. Some of these matches could still happen in the future, but for now you won't find any recordings of them in the world today. I'm Tempest, hailing from partsFUNknown, and these are 10 dream matches that were never televised. But before we get on with our list, make sure of course that you like this video, subscribe, and enable notifications to always on so that you never miss a fun list just like it. And if you yourself want to be part of a dream match, you can be part of one right now, going one-on-one with partsFUNknown in a subscriber on a poll match. Haha, you've already lost. You have to subscribe now. Please do it. Oh my god, please do it. Number 10, Randy Orton versus Mr. Perfect. It is worth mentioning right off the bat that a couple of the matches on this list probably were not the 5-star classics they could have been had both competitors been in their primes and put on a big stage. Such is the case with this pairing. Randy Orton and Mr. Perfect Curt Hennig wrestled a pair of dark matches in 2002 just as Orton was arriving on the scene and as Hennig was about to depart WWE for the final time. So matches they had probably would not have been the greatest representation of what the two could have done together under better, more impossible circumstances. Even still, I find myself sad that there's no way to go back in time to see this generational clash, even for just the novelty of it. You will find it difficult to name many smoother wrestlers with more natural talent in history than Randy Orton and Mr. Perfect, and it is a shame that they weren't able to have more matches together, particularly later in Orton's career when Hennig would have been a perfect opponent for legend killer Randy Orton. Pun absolutely intended. Number 9, Chris Jericho versus Kenta. Kenta never quite had his mojo in WWE. Constant injuries did not help matters, but his heavy striking style never translated to the more relaxed in-ring style of WWE, and thus his run ended up being largely unmemorable, and a real hurdle for him to overcome when he returned to Japan after his exit in 2019. However, for as lackluster as this run was for the man, you show me Kenta versus Chris Jericho on a card and my eyebrows will raise. Such was the case when WWE did its tour of Asia in the summer of 2017, with Jericho taking on the creator of the Go to Sleep in Singapore and again in Tokyo's Ryogoku Sumo Hall. Chris Jericho was gone from WWE at the time following his murder at the hands of Kevin Owens, but Jericho was always one to enjoy wrestling in Japan for WWE even when he wasn't part of the roster, as was the case here. This is a match I would love to see again on AEW Dynamite now, with Kenta back on his game and Chris Jericho once again operating at the highest in-ring level of his career, but for the time being only those lucky fans in Singapore and Japan were able to say they've seen these two stars of their respective companies properly square off. Number 8, Kurt Angle versus Owen Hart. Similar to Randy Orton and Mr. Perfect, had Kurt Angle and Owen Hart gotten to wrestle one another a year later, there is a real possibility that we could have seen some proper magic between them. Their one and only meeting came before Kurt had ever debuted on WWE TV, wrestling a dark match prior to a Shotgun Saturday Night taping on May 10th, 1999, less than 2 weeks before Owen's tragic death at Over the Edge. It has been said by a number of people much smarter than me that had Owen been able to wrestle the wide range of new mid-card talent that arrived in WWE in 1999 and 2000, he would have had a career resurgence. Getting to wrestle names like Eddie Guerrero, Chris Jericho, Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, and, maybe more than any other, Kurt Angle would have given Owen so much more to work with than he had at the time, when he was forced to work with the likes of Road Dogg and Test. We'll never know just how great Owen's matches with those men would have been, but for those in Orlando that night, they got just a little taste of what Owen and Kurt could have been together. Number 7, AJ Styles versus Gunther. Switching gears to something much more modern and incredibly recent, if you were going to put two current WWE stars together for a fantastic match, you would be hard-pressed to find a better combo than AJ Styles and Gunther. This is absolutely a matchup that we could see in the future once AJ returns from his ankle injury, but for now their only matches together came on a recent WWE holiday tour in December of 2022. Both matches, taking place in Rochester, New York and Moline, Illinois, were for Gunther's Intercontinental Championship and both ended in a disqualification with Gunther walking out with his title. I can only imagine what the reaction in the crowd must have been when it became clear that this was the matchup they were getting, because if it was me, I would have lost my goddamn mind like the Maple Leafs had just won the Stanley Cup. Okay, bad example because that will never happen, but this match, it definitely happened. These are two men that have built their reputations on being among the best wrestlers of their generation, and just given their sizes and styles, I can't imagine a better opponent for either man. Only those in Rochester and Moline know for sure, but this is one match I am extremely hopeful that we get to see for ourselves. Number 6, Kevin Owens versus Edge. Edge has had matches against a good range of current stars since his miraculous return from retirement in 2020. After facing exclusively Randy Orton for the first few singles matches of his return, Edge has faced the likes of Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan, Seth Rollins, AJ Styles, Finn Balor, and Damian Priest, but one man he hasn't wrestled on TV is fellow Canadian Kevin Owens. Edge and KO would make fantastic opponents for one another, with Edge's thoughtful storytelling mixing with KO's explosive offense, and to date the only people who know for sure are those who were able to watch their one and only match at WWE's Madison Square Garden Holiday Show on December 26, 2021. The two wrestled a steel cage match that I really hope we get to see before Edge hangs up his boots for good. There are still loads of wrestlers left on the WWE roster that Edge hasn't had a chance to wrestle, but I don't know if there's anyone that I would like to see him wrestle more than Kevin Owens. But speaking of Kevin Owens, number 5, Kevin Owens versus Brock Lesnar. Can I just say that it is absolutely mad that we have had to see Brock Lesnar face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 3 separate times, but never once have we been given the opportunity to watch the Beast take on the prize fighter Kevin Owens. If I had the book, that would have been a WrestleMania match so long ago you have no idea. Going back to Madison Square Garden, Kevin Owens took on Brock Lesnar in March of 2017 before Brock was set to face Goldberg and KO was going to wrestle Chris Jericho at WrestleMania 33. Certainly not a dream match come true for the crowd in New York that night, as Brock squashed KO in 2 minutes, but it remains the only time to date that the two have gone one-on-one in their careers. This is another match on this list that could absolutely happen in the future as long as Brock keeps having fun being the happy-go-lucky cowboy that will hunt you down and eat your carcass with his bare hands, aka the best version of Brock Lesnar, and personally, I really hope it does. If we don't get a version of this match made available for public consumption before it's too late, I will be a very angry Tempest. Number 4, The Undertaker versus Randy Savage. This one is a little bit of a cheat, as select clips of this match do exist and are available on WWE's YouTube channel, but only if you know where to look. The Undertaker missed out on wrestling a bunch of the top stars of the 80s boom period, debuting at the end of 1990, but one wrestler he got to mix it up with just once was Macho Man Randy Savage. Following the destruction of Savage and Miss Elizabeth's SummerSlam wedding reception at the hands of Jake Roberts and Kyle with the Vile Smile, Macho Man came out of retirement to take Roberts down, but never on TV did he get to go one-on-one with The Undertaker, holla holla. It is mad to think about, considering this is a main event of WrestleMania worthy match, but the Macho Man and the Dead Man's only ever singles match came in a dark match at a primetime wrestling taping in 1991. This match seemingly could end up in WWE's Hidden Gems section of the WWE Network, and thus could be disqualified from this list, but for now, this remains a lost clash between two of the biggest WWE stars ever. Number 3, Chris Jericho versus Shinsuke Nakamura. Just as Chris Jericho made sure to have a big, never-before-seen match in Japan in 2017 with Kenta, so too did he have a match in Japan in 2016, this time with the massively over Japanese superstar making his mark in NXT, Shinsuke Nakamura. Nakamura had just come off a year where he was many people's Wrestler of the Year in 2015, leaving New Japan for WWE after Wrestle Kingdom 10, and his homecoming match was against Chris Jericho, a match that would have seemed utterly impossible just 1 year earlier. Jericho has been extremely complimentary of this match with Nakamura, telling Vince McMahon afterwards that he needed to call up Nakamura to the main roster. At one point, a WrestleMania 33 match with Nakamura was floating by Chris Jericho before plans changed to Kevin Owens, but that would have given the rest of the world the chance for Jericho to face Nakamura on a massive stage. Right now, it seems unlikely that we will ever get to see this match for ourselves. Number 2, The Undertaker versus Eddie Guerrero. There were way too many dream matches left for Eddie Guerrero to have when he tragically passed away in November of 2005. He was famously penciled in to face Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 22, but another dream match that we never got to see was the clash between Latino Heat and the Witch King of Angmark Calloway. Prior to The Undertaker's SummerSlam 2005 encounter with Randy Orton, he had his one and only match with Eddie Guerrero on a SmackDown house show on August 1st. Considering Eddie was going through the messiest custody battle in human history over his son who was destined for prison, it should come as no surprise that he took the fall in this match. This is another of the sadder entries on this list because there's no doubt that Eddie and Taker could have produced magic together in the ring, and not the kind of spooky bollocks magic that The Undertaker made his name on. This could have been one of the best matches The Undertaker ever had at WrestleMania, but instead it was a special treat for the people of Poughkeepsie, New York. Of all places, my lord, just goes to show the biggest matches can really happen at any house show. And number 1, Kenny Omega versus AJ Styles. There are a few times where a fate had only swung the other way that we would have been given the chance to see this clash of former Bullet Club leaders. Kenny Omega famously turned on AJ Styles, kicking him out of Bullet Club in 2016, but before they could have a match to pay off that angle, AJ was on his way through the curtain to stand toe-to-toe with Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble. Then, when the Elite seemed to be leaving New Japan in late 2018, it seemed as if there was a legit possibility the group could have made the jump to WWE, where Styles and Omega would have been a natural WrestleMania match, but neither of those things happened. Instead, the only meeting between the two came at a local indie show in Winnipeg on September 21st, 2006. Only the people at the Lid nightclub know just how special this match was, but Kenny has gone on to say that it was this match that convinced him to keep being a wrestler following a disheartening stint in WWE developmental, so safe to say it was good enough to lift his spirits. This is another match that doesn't look likely to happen unless WWE and AEW ever want to kick down their iron-bolted forbidden door. And that's our list. If you enjoyed it and want to see another fun list just like it, make sure that you click the link above to check out our list of the 10 WWE stars you forgot competed in the Elimination Chamber. Hit stop in a big plastic box before we can make it to the fame and glory of WrestleMania. But sometimes people get left behind. Sometimes you forget Grandpa in the loo of the service station and drive off.